Welcome to part 10 in my real life series. I do apologize for this taking so long to be put up. I left you with Frito dropping dead and nobody knowing where he had buried his loot. But before I start with that, I have received a few messages from people and even a comment or two expressing their disappointment in my being so cavalier about the demise of a fellow human being. All I can tell you is this. Frito spent the better part of his adult life selling poison to other human beings. Literally taking a very active role in destroying the lives of people both young and old. So if I was just a little cavalier about Frito's demise, you know, I make no apologies for that. Anytime a dirtbag drops in this world, I think we're all better off for it. You know, Frito's got some things to answer for, possibly to a higher power, and hopefully he's answering to those things. I don't know. I do know one thing, though. Bell County, Kentucky, and even Knox County, Kentucky, for that matter, and hell, Harlan, Kentucky, is a whole lot better off with him being gone. Did he have people who cared about him? Undoubtedly he did, but I think that he did more damage to the community than he was worth. Just saying. Okay, so Frito's dead. Nobody knows where he buried his loot. The family didn't have enough money to keep the family business operating as it should. You need capital to be able to buy in bulk, get better prices. It's all capitalism. An evil form of capitalism, but the principles are all the same. So they were running into hard times. Now I, on the other hand, was doing pretty good. Timber's coming out, everything's going forward. Life is good for me at that point, and I had a well-deserved respite from the insanity that I had been dealing with. Now, I did go forward with suing Frito's daughter, Frito's daughter and Charles Lambert, Super Trooper, had that house in their name. So I was suing them to take the fence down. Now, there are people who also said to me, it almost took her side, in fact, and said, well, yeah, you got hundreds of acres. What do you care? She's got a little bit of your property fenced in. Here's why I cared. The reason I cared about that property she had fenced in, which admittedly wasn't very much, is because I was, not only was I doing the timber, but I also had intentions of developing the property for gas and oil. And in the state of Kentucky, you have to be 500 feet off of any of your adjoiners or any of your neighbors. If you are not 500 feet off, then you have to split the royalties that come in from any gas or oil well that you have that's not 500 foot off of it. So if I would not have made a stand over the property that the Lamberts had fenced in that belonged to me, literally, and at that time I had no idea where a gas or oil well would go. But let's just say, that one went 495 feet off of their property line, which really was mine, but I didn't claim it because I didn't want to stand up, that I would have had to give them half of whatever revenues that well produced for me. So I was not willing to take that chance. Now, hindsight being 20/20, of course, now I do realize that the wells were not going to be close to them, so it would have been an issue, but at that time I did not know. So I was protecting what was mine. That's kind of point number one. Point number two is the property belonged to me. I bought it, I paid taxes on it, it belonged to me. I mean, that's just the way it is. I'm no socialist. I'm not a collective person. So, I believe what you own is yours and what your neighbor owns is theirs, and, that's the way it is. So that's why I made a big deal. So I went forward with suing Frito's daughter and Charles Lambert. But then I get a message from my attorney telling me that Charles Lambert had been taken off the deed, which, I have no idea how he managed to pull that off. Because there was a huge tag on that house. I don't remember, well over $100,000 through Wells Fargo. How he managed to just get off the deed is beyond me. A lot of funky things happen in that county that are beyond me. But, well, real quickly, that's kind of the game that drug people do. What they do is they mortgage their house to the hilt. I mean, they just mortgage it for so much more than it's even worth. Because, a little known secret, the DEA will not go after somebody if there's no assets that they can attach to. It's sad but true. And I will get more into the DEA as this story unfolds. But if you are a drug dealer, you basically have nothing in your name, and what you do have, you have mortgage to the point where the DEA is not going to come in there and try to take it from you because there's no point to it, you know. So anyway, Charles Garland gets dropped off of that deed. And my attorney says, look, we can name him in the suit, or we can actually pursue him, but there's really no point to it. Let's just go after Frito's daughter. Because the ultimate goal is to have the fence taken down, have that property line established through the Bell County courts. You know, okay, so fine. So, I pursued that, and we actually went to court. It took forever. You know, the wheels of justice grind slowly. Took forever. I didn't feel real confident because so far my experience in that, well, I should say, you know, Judge Kelly did do me right. And that was the, you know, Judge Magistrate Kelly. So, but I still was kind of like, you know, because the rumors had it, and it seemingly seemed like the drug dealers ran that county. So I didn't know how things were going to fare for me in court. I did know one thing: I was spending an enormous amount of money trying to get a very little bit of property back. So I don't know how she was paying her legal bills. In fact, I don't think she was, or maybe she, who knows? I don't. There was rumors on that too, but I'm not going to speculate. Maybe off cam. But you know, I did feel like I was rolling the dice, though I knew I was completely in the right and that she had a big chunk of my property fenced in. So we go to court, and I get this guy named Judge Bowling. And one thing you'll know about this series is I give credit where credit's due, and I give disgust in the direction where disgust is due. Judge Bowling seemed like a pretty fair guy. During the whole procedure, he was very professional and seemingly cared about the facts, which I was happy to see. In fact, I got to sit on the stand and tell my side of it. My surveyor actually, you know, he had his big map and blah 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 blah. She had a surveyor in there, and you know, he was full of shit. It was clear. And at one point during this trial, there's no jury; it's just the judge. The judge looks at Frito's daughter, and he says to her, "I know that house." And he leans forward and he goes, "And I knew Frito." Now I did not know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but it seemed like it was a good thing just by the way it went down. He didn't seem too happy with her father, though he was deceased by this point. But he obviously had, and I did not know this at the time, but apparently when Frito had gotten arrested, and I guess it would have been the early 90s, Judge Bowling was the judge that actually presided over his trial, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, so the judge dismisses court for lunch and then says, "We're all going to meet at the property," which I was like, well, cool, because he's going to come out and take a look at the situation. So we did. We all went to lunch, and then we met at the property. And this guy shows up. He's like Indiana Jones. He's got a big cowboy hat on, jeans, and a flannel shirt. He's the judge, and he shows up there. I mean, I'm still dressed in a suit. Everybody else is dressed up. He takes a look at what's going around. He's got the map. He jumps the fence, heads up the mountain. I'm like, wow. I cannot imagine any judge around my neck of the woods in Ohio doing anything remotely like that. But apparently, Judge Bowling's a mountain man. So, long story short with Judge Bowling, he sees the situation. You can actually look at the deed and the deed description from Frito's house and look at my deed, and you can actually, an idiot could tell where the property line should be. Now, he did not make a decision at that point. He actually, when he got out of the woods, he adjourned court, and we found out a couple weeks later that we had been victorious. And that they would have to remove that fence and respect the property line that was now established during, you know, this action. Now, here's the funny thing, just a little bit on lawsuits, because you know, I'm no stranger to suing people. I don't like to do it, but I do it when I have to. It cost me $9,000 to get 1/2 acre of property back. She was ordered to pay me court costs, or the cost of the action, which amounted to somewhere around $800, which I've yet to see, and this has been a couple of years now, so I have yet to see that. So we live in a very litigious society, but it is very expensive to sue somebody, and But you know, you've got to stick up for what is yours. I'm going to leave this here, and because I don't want it to go over the 10 minutes. Maybe it's already over. I don't know. Then I think I'm just going to come right back and do number 11. So anyway, peace out.